Hello, now we're going to move on to Chapter 6, which is Managing Quality. Okay, Managing Quality. So for this chapter, our learning objectives are to define quality, quality management, and total quality management. We're going to describe the ISO International Quality Standards. We're going to explain what Six Sigma, benchmarking, and some of the quality robust products. We are going to use the 7 tools of total quality management. And we're also going to go over some of the history of quality management as well. So these are our learning objectives for Chapter 6. Now, before I dive into what is quality and what is quality management, let's just take a step back and think about something when we think about quality. Normally, when we think of quality, we think of, statistically 99.9% is generally good enough for many things. I know if I were a betting man, I would always take 99.9% odds. But when it comes to quality or defective quality, here's what 99.9% good quality looks like and what that other 0.1% equates out to. So if we had 99.9% acceptable quality with our drinking water, we would have 1 hour of unsafe drinking water every month. We'd have 2 unsafe landings at Chicago O'Hare's International Airport every single day. We'd have 16,000 pieces of lost mail every hour. There would be 20,000 incorrect prescription drugs given out to the wrong people every year. There'd be 500 incorrect surgical operations performed every single week. There'd be 50 newborn babies dropped at birth by doctors every single day, and there'd be 22,000 checks deducted from the wrong account every single hour. So that's what 99.9% acceptable quality looks like. So when you start putting it that way, there are many organizations that are running at 6 Sigma quality or 100% quality because those kind of things don't happen. And it's a good thing they don't, because that 1% of unacceptable quality could be detrimental, whether it's to our bank account, to our life, to flights, whatever it may be. 99.9% quality is not good enough. So quality is the ability of a product or a service to meet customer needs. Therefore, quality management is the systematic policies, methods, procedures that we put in place for goods and services that are produced to make sure that they meet the appropriate level and needs for our customers. One study has found that companies with high quality are 5 times more productive versus companies with poorer quality. And that is a little bit of a mentality shift, because when you think about having high quality, you think of having high costs. And that's not necessarily the case when you think about a manufacturing process having high quality or a service that has high quality, because when you have higher quality built into your processes, you're going to have less defects, less rework, less scrap, less warranty. So one of the ways to improve your company's profitability is by having high quality. So you see at the bottom of the page, you can improve profitability by reducing, you can improve profitability through improved quality by reducing your costs. So you can reduce your costs when you have high quality, because you're not going to be reworking things, you're not going to be building things twice, you're going to not be throwing items away that are scrap. So you can be very profitable when you have high quality. You can also improve profitability by having high quality, because you're going to have improved customer reputation, you're going to have more people that want to use your products and services, you're going to be able to provide them with those products and services quicker. So you can do all of that when you have higher quality. So our takeaway here from this very first slide is that quality is the ability of a product or a service to meet our customers' needs. Quality management is the processes and procedures we put in place to improve quality to meet those needs. And then by having high quality, we're going to be more profitable because we can increase our sales and lower our costs, and that will help us to increase our company profit. So the book talks about the flow of activities to achieve high quality. What do we need to do to actually build quality into our organizations? So organizational practices, these are some of the things that we talked about in Chapter 1 and in Chapter 2. This is, having strong company leadership, mission statements, operating procedures, training. Those are all the things that we do to yield what is important and what needs to be accomplished. I think of this as our strategies. Next is our quality principles. This is our customer focus, continuous improvement, benchmarking, just-in-time, total quality management. All of these things were covered we will cover in this chapter and Chapter 16 on lean and just-in-time and the things that we can do to help improve our quality. So when I think of quality principles, I think of processes. How do we improve our processes to improve the output of our quality product? So what can we do to improve our processes to make our outputs better? Employee fulfillment is empowerment, organizational commitment. This helps the employees to accomplish what is important, and this is the output of our product or our service. Next is customer satisfaction. This is winning orderers, getting repeat customers, increasing our annual revenue, and this is what helps our organization to get a competitive advantage. To me, customer satisfaction and getting year-over-year customers, this is really the reward of having high quality. So when you think about the flow of activities to achieve quality, it starts at the top. That's your organizational strategy and how you want to address quality management. Next are your quality principles. These are the processes that you implement to try and improve that quality process or service. Employee fulfillment is really how you improve the output of that product or service. And then customer satisfaction is the reward for having that high quality. So customers' perception of quality. Before we get into specific examples of company or product reputation, I want you to just think about your perception of quality when it comes to even where things are manufactured by country. Do you perceive made in America as having high quality or low quality? What about made in Mexico or made in China? When you see that little writing on the bottom of a product that you buy, do you think, oh, great, this is junk? Or do you think, ooh, this is going to be really high quality? So we all have perceptions of quality, not only by country, but also by company as well. Years ago, if I would have said Volkswagen or Mattel or some of the other companies that have had some relatively big scandals over the course of the last few years, if I would have said those names a decade ago, you would have immediately thought they have really high quality, especially Volkswagen, right? You would have thought they're an ethical company, they're committed to the environment, they build a high quality product. But when they cheated those emission scandals, their company reputation went way down. So as customers, we've got a perception of quality, whether it's for a country like United States, China, Japan, or we can have a perception of quality for a product or a service or even a company. So with Volkswagen, they took a hit over the course of the last couple of years, but we have a perception for every company that we do business with. So you can see on the screen, we've got when our expectations meet our perceptions, that organization or that product has met our expectations for that quality. They've met our needs, right? So our expectations meet our perceptions. Well, what you don't want is when you've got higher expectations than the quality that is provided to you, whether it be for a product or a service, and there's that gap. So that product or that service does not meet your quality expectations, so you're going to be unhappy with that product or service because it does not meet your expectations. On the flip side of that, what you want as an organization is when a customer has a perception of your quality and you exceed it. Okay, your quality is better than they thought. So an example of a place that exceeded my expectations. Recently someone told us that we should go to Jake's restaurant in Del Mar. Someone gave us a gift certificate for our anniversary, and we went there, and it was great. I'd heard for a long time, that it was really, really good, and it exceeded our expectations. So that's good for them, right? I'm sitting here talking on a video to hundreds of people about my expectation there and how things went. And that's what happens when you exceed people's expectations. Now, on the flip side of that, if a company doesn't meet your expectations and things go pretty poorly, then you're going to let 9 to 10 people know that that experience didn't go well, and that's going to make that company probably take a hit to their reputation or lose some revenue or lose customers because their perceived quality is lower. So pretty much I've talked about this a little bit on that last page there, but the implications of quality: if you have poor quality, it can result in lost business, a loss in productivity. It can increase your costs. It will diminish your company reputation, like I talked about with Volkswagen. You can have product liability, so you can get sued if your products are hurting people or there's lead in them, or if anything happens that could be personally you can hold a company liable for. And then there can be global implications, not being able to sell your products overseas based off of their quality standards, and if you cannot meet those quality standards. So, it is very important in the age of the internet to have a high quality product or service, because people are going to review you online, whether it be Yelp or some kind of Amazon rating or whatever it may be. But you've got to really have a high quality product, or you're going to lose business, you're going to have increased costs, you're going to have liabilities, poor reputation. So having poor quality is going to be detrimental to your organizations. Okay, let's pivot now a little and talk about the history of quality management. So historical uses of quality management, it's been around for a long time. Even when they were building the pyramids, they clearly had a quality management process. They used standardized tools and the same kind of blocks that were used for every single pyramid. So those things are still standing today. So they obviously had some high quality built into their process. But interchangeable parts during the Industrial Revolution, statistical tools that were used for quality control during World War II. And so some of the examples I'm going to give over the next couple of slides here are centered around World War II. And that's because if you think about World War II and how long it lasted, and most countries were not anticipating being brought into World War II. So we had to build tanks, and we had to build aircraft carriers, and we had to build airplanes. And it was literally a manufacturing race to see who could build the most weapons to bring to the World War. And so quality management processes, continuous process improvement, lean and just in time, and all these things, there was a huge improvements made around that time because manufacturing was so important to each different country, making sure that they could compete in World War II. And then after World War II was over, some of these quality gurus that we're going to talk about actually spent time in Japan, literally helping them to rebuild some of their manufacturing facilities with quality built into those processes. Now, the Japanese already had a culture of quality that was built into a lot of their manufacturing processes, but Deming, who we'll talk about next, really helped to implement some of his quality management philosophies into the Japanese manufacturing processes after they were rebuilding Japan after World War II. So some of the people we're going to talk about today are Edwards Deming, Joseph Juran, and Philip Crosby. These were some of the pioneers in the quality management field. We're going to call them the quality gurus, but there are many others that have helped to make quality improvements over the years. So the first one we'll talk about today is Edwards Deming. He focused on bringing about improvements in product and service quality by reducing uncertainty and variability in goods and service design and the associated processes. So he was really working on that process. He implemented something called a 14-point management philosophy, and you can find that in your textbook. I'm not going to go over all of them today for sake of our time. And his thing was that higher quality leads to higher productivity and lower costs. So again, higher productivity equals lower costs. And he did that quality improvement process through the Plan, Do, Study, Act. Later, we're going to hear about Plan, Do, Check, Act. They're pretty much the same thing, where it really means study the plan that you have, your current situation. Do, which is implement a plan on a trial basis. Check or study to see the improvements that have been made and what can be improved from there. And then act is to standardize on those improvements and or put in corrective measures that are needed to improve that process. So you can see that it's a wheel because you're doing the Plan, Do, Study, Act or the Plan, Do, Check, Act over and over again so that you can really improve the quality of your processes which will improve the quality of your product. So in Japan, there's the Deming Prize. This is the highly coveted award honoring Deming, and its main focus is on statistical process control. Later, we're going to talk about the Malcolm Baldridge Award, and that's the United States top prize for having a high-quality organization. So one other thing that Deming really focused on with his Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle was that there is, you don't have your problem's not with your employees, and your employees are not building a poor quality product or helping to facilitate a poor quality service. That it's the fault of the system, and that you need to look at improving your processes to make sure that your employees cannot make those mistakes. Okay, back in the day, if there was an error, you would just go blame the employee and say, well, you built this incorrectly. Well, Deming would say, make a process in place to where the employee can't make those mistakes in the first place. So with Deming, I like to bring up some of my favorite Deming quotes. And he's got a lot of them that are out there, but just a couple that I'll highlight. You can't manage what you can't measure. Okay, so you can't manage a process. You can't improve the quality of that process if you can't measure it in the first place. So when we talk about statistical process control and having these processes that make sure they are in control, not out of control, and we've removed the variability in that process, he would say that if you can't measure that process, that you can't manage it or improve it. In God we trust. All others must bring data. So he's not going to trust you unless you bring data to that conversation about the output of that process. And then my favorite one, which you can use in business, but I wouldn't recommend using with your spouse or significant other, is without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So I think that's one of my favorite Deming quotes. Without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So that is Edward Deming, and he is definitely one of the primary quality gurus. Next is Joseph Juran. He wrote the Quality Control Handbook in 1951. It was a comprehensive quality manual. He advocated for use of quality cost measurement. His quality trilogy was quality planning, quality control, and quality improvement. And even though it was written right about the same time as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and this guy kind of looks like he could have been in that movie, Joseph Juran really focused on quality cost measurement and planning, quality control, and quality improvement. And the other thing he talked about was fitness for intended use. Okay, fitness for use or fitness for intended use. What is your product? What is your product supposed to be used for? Okay, so it sounds very simple, but when we're engineering a product or looking at quality control or improving a process, we need to think about what is the fitness for intended use. So an example, this red pen that I just picked up. Can I hold it comfortably? Does it help me to write? When I open it up and I press down on a piece of paper, is red ink coming out when I need it to? So this red pen, its whole job is to disperse red ink on paper when I want it to, and it will fit in my hand. That's its fitness for intended use. This pen doesn't need to have GPS. It doesn't need to have a flashlight on it. Its intended use is to disperse red ink when I want it to. So you focus on a process that makes sure that your product will output the fitness for intended use for that product. If you're making a product that is supposed to disperse red ink, then focus on a process that makes sure that your products conform to whatever it is that you're manufacturing. Philip Crosby wrote Quality is Free in 1979, so he's a little bit later than some of the other guys. But the reason I bring him up is that he really helped to get some of the American car manufacturers in line with improving their quality in the 80s and 90s. Because American car manufacturers were losing a lot of business to Chinese and Japanese car manufacturers, and it's because our quality wasn't able to keep up. So people were very proud to buy American, but we were starting to see that some of these American car manufacturers were having issues keeping up with some of the other ones. So he also had a little bit of a paradigm shift for quality management. He was really focused on zero defects and doing things right the first time. Okay, so trying to build quality products that had zero defects. He would say there's no such thing as a quality problem, there's a process problem, so a little bit the same as Deming. And he also said that there's no such thing as the economics of quality. Doing the job right the first time is always cheaper. So I guarantee my dad read this book, because growing up, all I would hear over and over again is do it right the first time or don't do it at all. And it was annoying as a teenager to continually hear do it right the first time or don't do it at all. But he was right. Right now as an adult, I see that when I do something, I'm going to do it right the first time because I don't want to waste time doing it again or a third time or whatever that may be. Rework in my personal life, I don't have time for that. So I'm going to do something right the first time, and it's going to save me time and it's going to save me money if I do it. So that was Philip Crosby. He wrote Quality is Free, and he really stressed the prevention of defects and working on zero defects, doing things right the first time. Okay, so now let's pivot from some of the quality gurus to talking about some of the awards and the certifications that are out there for quality. And we're going to, again, there's a lot of them that are out there, but we're going to focus on two of the primary ones used in the United States. So the first one is the Malcolm Baldridge National Quality Award. This is an annual award given by the United States government to recognize quality achievements for U.S. companies. It's named after Malcolm Baldridge, who served as the Secretary of Commerce in 1981, and his managerial excellence continued for long-term improvement in efficiency and effectiveness of the government. And so we named this award after him, and it was signed into law in 1987 by President Ronald Reagan. The purpose of the Malcolm Baldridge National Quality Award is to stimulate efforts to improve quality, to recognize quality achievements, and to publicize successful programs. The categories for the Baldridge Award are manufacturing, service, and small business. Those have been the categories that have been out there since 1988. The education and healthcare categories were added in 1999, and then the nonprofit category was added in 2007. Since its inception, there have been a ton of applications, over 1,600 applications. There's been 334 site visits and 113 awards. Now, some of these numbers are a little bit outdated, so those numbers are probably higher now. But look at the ratio there of the applications received versus site visits versus awards. This has been going on since 1987, okay, 1987. So we're over 30 years now, and only 113 awards or so have been given out. On average, the United States government gives out about 5 to 10 of these awards per year. So it's a really big deal to win the Malcolm Baldridge National Quality Award. So how you get the award is there's a couple areas that they measure. Those categories are leadership, strategic planning, customer focus, information and analysis, essentially data collection, human resources, process management, and then business results. So those are the categories that they measure, and the most recent weightings for each one of those categories. The benefits of a Baldridge competition are that it provides a well-designed quality program that provides you with feedback on how to improve your processes. Many times people who win this award do get financial success because people want to use those organizations. And it's a process that motivates employee. So some of the previous winners of the Malcolm Baldridge Award who come out of San Diego, Solar Turbines won it in the 90s. They're a manufacturing facility down by the airport. Premier was a service firm back in 2006, Sharp Healthcare in 2007, and then the Charter School of San Diego, which is an education facility, won it in 2015. So those are some San Diego companies that have won it. I was one of the firms that we partner with is Sharp Healthcare. So I've been with them through that process where they took the Malcolm Baldridge Quality Award process very seriously. So they submitted applications back in 2005. They got some site visits. They got some feedback on what they could do to improve their quality. They did it again in 2006. They implemented the feedback that was given to them by the United States government on how to improve quality. They did it again, and in 2007, they actually were one of 5 companies in the entire country that won the Malcolm Baldridge Award. So, out of hundreds and hundreds of applicants every year, they were selected as one of the 5 winners of the Malcolm Baldridge Award in 2007. The Charter School of San Diego in 2015, they essentially take at-risk youths who were going to drop out of high school, and now they've done such a great job at that charter school that 95% or greater of their students go on to successfully go into college and graduate from college. So it's been a great program of taking at-risk youths who were essentially going to be high school dropouts, and now they're college graduates. So for them, their result is education. For Sharp Healthcare, their result is a high-quality service to their patients. So manufacturing facility, it might be zero defects, it might be really high-quality products, whatever it may be. Every organization in those different categories is judged. It's the same point scale, but the results might vary on what they deem as what quality is to them. So that's the Malcolm Baldridge National Quality Award. ISO certification, the International Organization of Standardization, ISO, promotes worldwide standards for improvements of quality, productivity, and operating efficiency through a series of standards and guidelines. It's internationally recognized, and it standardizes your key terms in quality and provides a basic set of principles for initiating quality management systems. Back when I was in manufacturing, if you were not a ISO 9000 or 9001 certified organization, we literally would not buy from you because we didn't believe that you had a high quality process that could yield high quality products. So you had to be ISO certified or we would not even buy from you. And that's because there's this quality management process that you have to go through to make sure that you can be certified and that you've got a process in place that will yield high quality products. When I think of ISO certification, to me it means document what you do and then do what you document. So document what you do. What are your processes? And then do those processes. Make sure that you're documenting what you do and then do what you document. And that is your quality management process. Now, there's 8 quality management principles that form the latest version of ISO 9000. So that's top management leadership, customer satisfaction, continual improvement, the involvement of people, use of data to make decisions, and mutually beneficial supplier relationships. So there's 8 of them, and I didn't read all of them, but ISO 9000 looks at all these different inputs to make sure that you've got a good quality management program in place. Now, back in the day when I was in manufacturing, over a decade ago, number 3, continual improvement, wasn't even on the list. And so to me, that was a big gap in the certification back in the day. Because even if you do what you document and document what you do, it doesn't mean that you have a high quality process that's where your output is a high quality good. So continual improvement using that plan, do, check, act, or other, the DMAIC process, which we'll talk about later. You need to have continual process improvement in your quality management system. Otherwise, you might have a wonderful documented process that doesn't yield very high quality products. So continual improvement to me is one of the biggest things as part of the ISO standardization that they now have in place. And so that certification definitely means something for the organizations that have it. Okay, so let's change gears a little bit here again and talk about some of the costs of quality. We've talked about having, when you have low quality, how that impacts your bottom line. You're going to do rework, and you're going to have scrap, and you're going to have high warranty costs. And when you have high quality, how that can help improve your sales and reduce your production costs because you're not continually reworking products. You've got a really good built-in process that yields a high quality product. So let's talk about some of the costs of quality. And so those are the costs associated with avoiding poor quality or those costs incurred as a result of poor quality. So appraisal costs are the costs activities designed to ensure quality or uncover defects. Okay, so when you think of appraisal costs, think of quality inspection. So incoming inspection at shipping or inspection on a production line when you're looking at products to make sure that at each stage of that production process that they've met some kind of quality standard. That is an appraisal cost. Prevention costs are all of the quality training, planning, customer assessment, process control, and quality improvement costs to prevent defects from occurring. So really this is working on the improvement of your manufacturing processes, training your workers, quality engineering, putting statistical process control measures in place, creating poka-yokes, which we'll talk about in chapter 16, essentially foolproofing your processes so that people can't make errors. These are all prevention costs so that you don't ever have a problem in the first place. Then there are failure costs. Failure costs are the cost incurred when you have a defect of a part, product, or a service. Okay, so failure costs can be internal or external. So an internal failure cost are the costs incurred to fix problems that you detect internally. Okay, if you check it, like an appraisal cost would be an example of an internal failure cost. If you realize that you have a problem before it gets to your customer and you fix it internally, then that is an internal failure cost. You're building something, it doesn't work, it's got low quality, you fix it, that is an internal failure cost. The opposite of that is when you have a failure cost, but you don't realize it, and it ships to your customer, and that is a problem, or that is the cost of fixing problems that are detected after your customers receive them, okay? Without question, external failure costs are the most expensive because now your customers have them in their hand, and most of the time you either have to recall those products or they return those products, and that's going to cost the organization shipping, rework, warranty, all those expenses. So that's an external failure cost. So those are the four costs within the costs of quality: appraisal costs, prevention costs, internal failure costs, and external failure costs. Now, not all costs are created equal. So if you look at this curve, you can see that external failures cost an organization the most without question. If a defective product gets into the hands of your customers, that is the most expensive defect that you can have. Think about the airbags that were exploding a few years ago. All those cars had to get recalled and they put new airbags in them. Think about all the Mattel toys that had lead in them. They had to recall all of them and send out either credit or new toys. Think about, a decade ago or so when Bridgestone tires were failing. Every single car that had specific Bridgestone tires had to come back and then be replaced. I literally got a new set of tires on my Ford Explorer at the time because they had Bridgestone tires on them. So I got $500, $600 worth of free tires because of that recall. Yay for me, terrible for them, right? So external failures are very expensive. Internal failures are when they would have caught those internally. So let's just use the airbag example again. Imagine if when they're doing their quality control internally and you literally see those airbags, those airbag dummies, right? And you see the cars crashing into the wall and the airbag goes off and, yay, that person is saved. Well, they did not catch those airbag problems when they were doing their internal costs or their inspections. So that had they caught it internally, it would have been an internal failure. But they didn't. It shipped to all the customers around the world, so it became an external failure. So those are less expensive when you can catch the problems internally. Prevention expenses, again, that's training, that's process improvement. Those are expensive up front, but as time goes on and that quality gets built into the process, your people are trained, you've got a high functioning process that yields very low defects. It's more expensive up front, but then it decreases as time goes on. And then appraisal costs, again, that's really just inspection. That's monitoring the quality that you've got and making sure that it passes inspection. Appraisal costs pretty much stay the same throughout. So you can see if you look at this slide, there's very little difference between prevention and appraisal costs. But in the long term, appraisal costs are not going to cost you much. Prevention costs will cost you more up front, but in the long term, prevention costs will cost you the least amount of money. So it's hard to see on there, but prevention costs are the least expensive. Then appraisal costs are slightly more. Internal failure costs are exponentially more expensive because you do have a failure that wasn't prevented. And then external failure costs are pretty much catastrophic. That's when your customers have these products. They need to be recalled. They need to come back for warranty. And so those costs are pretty darn extreme. So external failure costs are without question the most expensive method of failure. Okay, and so like we're going to talk about in every chapter, quality management is absolutely no different when it comes to ethics and qualities. and quality. In operations management, operations managers have to deliver high quality, healthy, safe, reliable products and services to our customers. You've got an ethical responsibility to do so. Poor quality, there's the risk of injuries, lawsuits, recalls, regulations, and frankly, you just don't want that on your conscience anyway, right? I would never want to provide a poor quality product or service to other people because I wouldn't want that on my conscience that something might happen to them. So you've got to consider all your stakeholders, and substandard work can result in defective products, substandard service, poor designs, shoddy workmanship. Knowing that your organization is building a low quality product or service and failing to correct and report that in a timely manner is unethical. I just think if you work in food services, make sure that you're delivering high quality ingredients to your customers. What would you want served to you? If you work in a manufacturing facility, make sure those processes are aligned to where the quality of the product is going to be high. Pretend you're using that product. You want to make sure that it's got a really high quality output. Home building, right? If you're out there and you're putting, if your fellow teammates are building a home, and you're supposed to use 20 nails on a piece of drywall and your teammate is only using 10, call them out. Make sure that they're using the high quality products and services that they're supposed to, so that the customer is getting the value that they're supposed to for their money. So you as an individual in operations, whether you're in management or you're in the field, you've got a responsibility to your organization and to yourself to really build high quality products and services. Okay, so that concludes this video on managing quality. We've learned about what quality is, who some of the quality gurus are, some of the implications of poor quality and good quality. We've talked about ethics and quality management. Now we are going to move on to total quality management and some of the tools that we'll use to manage quality.